Hi everyone, I'm Jan from Sew It Online, and I get so many calls about how to buy a sewing machine and what sewing machine to buy. Today I'm going to review for you the Explorer 160, which is extremely similar to the My Style 100. So just two different machines, two different models, but whichever one you end up choosing will be working for you. So first of all, what I want to tell you when you buy a new machine is that we want 3 quality features and we want 7 stitches. If you get that, you'll have a sewing machine that will last you 20 years, and you'll have a sewing machine that will work on any fabrics you want. I will later go on to what other features you can purchase that might be easier for you, but if you're looking for just a good starter machine, this is what I recommend. So let me tell you, let's go over the quality first. A lot of the manufacturers make a lot of doodads on machines, and the you as consumers want doodads. We want push buttons. We want this, we want that. We got to have quality first, folks. This is a precision machine. So we're going to get quality. So the first thing I want you to get is called a full rotary hook. And what that means is the hook down here, which drives the thread around to be able to make the stitch, has to be metal, and it has to be full rotary. What full rotary means is it goes all the way around in a circle. You may have seen a machine that you put in and the bobbin case goes like this. It's called an oscillator. See how it oscillates? Think of a fan, okay? But now when you get to a full rotary, if you aren't going to jam up when you start off. You're not going to have to hold your threads when you start off. Because it's going around in a circle, nothing gets tangled. It's one step up. It's been on machines for 60 some years, or 80 years since the old Singers were around. But at the entry level machine, it's a little harder to get. So we want to make sure it's metal. That's the trick. You'll find a lot of internet machines that are all plastic. So metal full rotary hook. The next thing I want you to get is called solid state electronics. All that means is the foot control. What the foot control is going to do, you can't tell by looking at it from your vision. Let me just get this set for me. Okay, but what solid state's going to do for me is go over my seams and not bind down. So as I'm sewing over, I'm just slowing for the camera, but let's talk about this. You're going to want to go up over a blue jean seam, and you're going to need sometimes to go up over that. Do you see what I'm coming from? So that I'm going through 4 or 8 layers there. I can walk through it slowly. Sure, I can go fast. You can go fast on any machine. But what you can't have is control unless you have solid state electronics. So this is what's going to give it to you, where you can just go right through that thickness and right over that seam. Now for future use, there's a blue jean needle that I would have used if I was doing that very often, okay? But you can see my machine walked right over it. So what it means to us as sewers is that the needle can penetrate through the fabric 1 stitch at a time, fast or slow. So we're going to be able to walk right over it. So that's really, really important. I get so many calls of people that are jamming, and that is because of the machinery. So if we just get good quality machinery the first time, you're going to be fine. Now the next thing I want is a universal pressure. Universal pressure means, let's look right down here on my presser foot, and I'm going to lift this up. Can you see how much more I can get underneath here? That's called a universal pressure, and what happens is as I'm going from this to this to this, the machine is adjusting on its own. You might have remembered having a dial here, a push button here, where we had to readjust all that all the time. Now it's called universal, and it will go through. This is not on all machines. You got to be very, very selective of which one you're purchasing. So on here, it's my lowest price. I can get you the 3 quality features. Now let's go on to the 7 stitches I want. And you tell me if you would like them or not. So sewing machines have always done a lot of decorative stitches, and we had ducks on them back 30 years ago. But we didn't have the stitches that we need for today's fabrics. 30 years ago, we weren't sewing on the knits and on the different fabrics that we have now. So the first stitch I'm going to suggest you to look into is called tri-motion. Tri-motion means it's going to go forward, backwards, and sideways, forward, backwards, sideways. So let's go over on my machine. I got it real simple. All I do is go to G. So I move my dial to G, and I want the blue G, so all I do is move this to blue. What I like so much about this machine is that you can go from fabric to fabric without any issues, but it's self-explanatory on how to use it. So that makes it really, really nice. Now let's watch what I'm doing, and I'm going to slow down a bit so you can really see what I'm talking about. But what I'm doing is overcasting my edge and finishing my machine at the same time. So, do you see how the needle is going backwards, forwards, and sideways all at the same time? So that's called tri-motion. And what tri-motion is going to do, let me get through this so you can hear me. Not good enough. I think you get the idea. What tri-motion is going to do for me is going to finish my edges. So that right here, it's going to stretch, but look, it pull back into shape. But what it did was it gave me a straight stitch and basically a zigzag in a new form to be able to finish that edge, and look what I've done. So now I have my neckline completely finished with my edges, with my seam 100% done. This is the trick. I can stretch that now because you're going to pull it over that kid's head. You've had a t-shirt that rippled out at the bottom. That's because it wasn't sewn with tri-motion. So every person does mending. So if you're looking for a basic machine and you just want to fix your tears, right there is going to be a much better job than what a straight stitch and the old zigzag would do. So that's called a tri-motion overcasting stitch. I feel it's a must. It's affordable, and it's going to make a difference in your clothing. So that's number one. Number two, I want to go to a stretch straight. So all I have to do is, it's still blue. I'm just going down to A. So move my dial, my selector dial down to A. This one here is still on blue. Do you see how I have an A straight stitch and an A blue? A blue means stretch stitch. Now let's go on here, because this is going to show you a little bit better what it looks like, I think, and then I'll do it on a knit. What this stitch does is go up to back one. Can you see that? Up to back one. Now what's going on is this is just like I sewed the stitch 3 different times. But it's precisioned exactly perfectly, going back and forth in the exact same hole. Now what do you need that for? Well, I just made cornhole bags. And if you think that wasn't any fun, it wasn't. But cornhole bags, they just cannot fall apart. So I stitched around that with that stitch. They're going no place. Let's do it on a knit. If you take my A to Z course, you'll get into elastic. And in the A to Z course, you're going to learn what to do with all of these different stitches all the time. So what I'm doing here, again, is stitching using my knit so it would stretch. But see how much stretch it's got for me? So let's say you put elastic in a pair of pajama pants and you turned it down, but you've had that stitch rip out on you before. This will never rip out. It's never, I mean, you could rip it out if you made a mistake, but it's not going to fall apart. It's got give. So crotch seams, sleeve seams, where elastic is involved, swimwear, jogging, suits, that sort of thing, you're going to use that stitch a lot, as well as cornhole bags. So anytime you might have caught yourself wanting to sew it 2 or 3 times to make sure it worked, you're not going to have to do that no more. Those are my 2 favorite stitches. Those are stitches that I don't think that people use on a machine. I really hope you take the A to Z class, because you will learn every single thing to go along with this, and you will learn all about it. Now, the 2 basic stitches are these 2 that I wanted to talk about. Now let's go to basic. So now we need a straight stitch. We need a zigzag. Let's do a little bit of zigzag. I'm still going to go on denim only because it's going to show off a little bit more. So your straight stitch is A. So I'm just going to A, but I don't want to be on the stretch. So here's my stitch length. I can make it longer or shorter. That's what this dial is doing for me. So I have to have a straight stitch. I have to go to C because I have to do a zigzag. And zigzag can be gorgeous satin stitching, or it can be your zigzag. Lots of techniques that you will use for both. But if you end up getting into things, if you're going to get into more sewing and you get involved, when you want to put a dog on a shirt, you want to stitch around it, that's called a satin stitch. That's what we will teach you how to perfect. The blind hem is my next thing. A blind hem is again taught to you in the A to Z class, but you're going to be able to hem all your husband's shirts or husband's slacks, your own slacks, and nothing will show on the opposite side. I've got quite a few tricks in those courses. So the 7 stitches that I'm going to tell you to buy are your straight stitch, your zigzag, a mending stitch, I'm going to show you that, blind hem, stretch straight, overcasting, and a built-in buttonhole. So those are the features that you're going to need no matter if you're going to do a little bit of side upholstery, or you want to do a new cushion, or you want to make a garment, you can do it here. If you're starting off with a youngster in your family, something with the full rotary hook and the solid state is not going to get them frustrated. And that's the whole goal. So this machine is normally $4.99. The sale price on it right now, which we've gotten discounted because of what's going on in this crazy world right now, is $269. I will guarantee you cannot buy a quality metal machine like this for that kind of money any place whatsoever, because this is what you're going to want to get with those 7 stitches. The last thing I want to show you is a mending stitch. And again, we teach all this to you in the A to Z class, but I want you to know what this is. So I got your attention. One more minute is all. So what I've got is a tear, or you're sewing a patch on, or you're sewing elastic on. I show you lots of tricks with that too. But what I'm going to do right now is just fix this tear. So all I'm going to do is go to D, and I just want to explain to you what this stitch is all about. So what the stitch does is it takes 3 steps. So what a zigzag usually does is go boom, 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 boom. Now I'm going to take 3 steps in between each boom. You get it? Okay, so I'm going to close this right on down. I'm going to do this mending stitch, and I'm almost making it close to 0, so it's basically stitching on itself. But if I would have used blue thread on here, you probably hardly wouldn't have even saw the issue, because what it's done is it has rewoven that fabric because it's going up and down. I'll show you tricks to do with it with elastic too, but it's a great stitch to have. And if you end up getting a sewing machine, I hope you explore all the different stitches of what it does, because so many people buy things and then they only do straight stitch and zigzag, and that drives me crazy. So I really, really, really think every one of you would love to have this overcasting stitch and would use it every time you sat down to sewing. So that gives you an idea of what the 160 does versus, and the My Style 100 is very, very similar. So the same explanation would be the same of them. It's one of my best-selling machines. I put them in the school systems in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're dependable, and they're a workhorse, and they do a really good job. So consider it, and I hope you get back to sewing and have some fun real soon.